Thank you for staying with us. The federal government has declared Monday, June 17 and Tuesday, June 18 public holidays to mark this year's Eid festival. Okay, now there are many Eids. Which one is which? Just so at least you have your peace of mind. I know that some of us, the moment you hear Eid, you're thinking of meat. Is this the one for meat? I don't know. You want to find out from our guests this morning. Barrister Alatoye Folorunso Aziz is Amir Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat of Nigeria. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
We also have Sheikh Faisal Zuglu, is an Islamic scholar and educationist and a chartered accountant and chartered economist. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Well, as an economist, you have to educate us on why meat is expensive this time around. But let's begin with you, Barrister Folorunso Aziz. Which Eid is this? First of all, how many do we have, and which one is this one?
Okay, thank you very much, Ayo. We thank God that we're having another Eid. This one is called the Eid al-Adha, which is Festival of Sacrifice. Okay. We also have the Eid al-Fitri, okay, the one we have after the 29 days, 30 days as the case may be, of fasting of Ramadan.
Ramadan.
Yes, that is the second major Eid. Okay. Even though Friday is also another Eid, but a smaller one. Okay. Every Friday we go for Jumat service. That's another one. So these are the three.
Which one is Eid al-Maulud?
Eid al-Maulud is the celebration of the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Okay. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Remembrance of his life. Okay. All the examples that he has left for us. That one is Eid al-Maulud.
Okay. You've talked about Eid al-Fitri?
Yes, Eid al-Fitri for Ramadan.
You've talked about Eid al-Adha.
Eid al-Adha, which is this one, sacrifice.
Which one is Eid al-Kabir?
Eid al-Kabir is the Eid al-Adha, which is this one. Oh. It's called Eid al-Kabir because it's the tag like biggest of all those Eids.
Do we need a dictionary for this?
Yeah.
Do we need a dictionary?
A dictionary. I think by the time, with all these programs here and that, everybody will get used to know about the different Eids that we have.
So that's right. Why does it seem like anytime we hear Eid, we're thinking about meat?
Salamit. Yes, because as he just said now, it is the festival of sacrifice.
No, I mean, I'm talking about generally. Once we hear it's Muslim holiday, many of us, our mind is going to Ileya meat.
To Ileya meat. Yeah, because I think that is the one that most people actually look forward to, because it's a time where the meat that is being slaughtered as sacrifice is being shared. Which is one of the unique importance of the Eid. The fundamental essence of that is actually to bring love, to bring them the spirit of sharing, and which, in a way, it's one of the fundamental, way Islam is using to solve a lot of societal problems. At least poverty, for instance. So the spirit of sharing during this period, everyone is expected. You are expected to slaughter the ram, but it's not only for you. You take a part of it that will be sufficient for you and your family. The rest must be shared. In a way, we're talking about poverty alleviation, and at the same time, the spirit of love.
Is that the only significance of the ritual of sharing meats to the family and the community?
It's actually, very fundamental. As it is said, the first one is love. When you talk about any of those Eids, the underlying factor is love of others. And to back that up, the Holy Prophet Muhammad was reported to have said that, La yuminu ahadukum ata yuhibbu lillahi ma yuhibbu linafsihi. You can't be a true believer until you love for others what you love for yourself. So during the Eid, as Halaji had said, you kill, a ram, and you divide it into maybe 2 or 3 for your family, for your immediate neighbors, because according to the Sunnah, you can't be eating, that aroma is going out, and your neighbor is not eating, then you are not a good Muslim. And to the needy as well, you need to also give a portion. So that's why the moment anybody here eat, so the first thing that comes to your mind is that, no, this is for us all, without exclusion and without religious, boundary. You don't say, okay, I give it only to Muslims, I don't know. It's for all. And that is the reason everybody is looking towards the Eid.
I'll come back to you, Sheikh Zuglu. It is not supposed, in my opinion, I don't think it is supposed to be limited to a time. It's supposed to be something that we live with on a daily basis. But just as you said now, we have to be talking about poverty alleviation because there is poverty. But if it is a thing we do every day of our lives, we shouldn't be talking about poverty alleviation, should we?
Yeah, I think that is one of the areas where I would still say that the uniqueness of Islam comes in. It is only pronounced at this time of the festival, but it is a standard. It is not restricted to this time of Eid. No. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah be pleased with him, said, he said, "Laysa bimu'min man bata shabahan wa jaruhu jaya ila janbihi wa huwa ya'lam." He is not a believer. Anyone who he is full, he is well fed with his family, and his neighbor is going to bed hungry. The Prophet ﷺ said, he is not a believer. He is not part of me. So you will see that we are expected to embark on this every day of our life. So, but it is only pronounced more during this the festive period. But it is a standard that every Muslim must follow every day of their life.
So how do we cascade that? How do we make it a lifestyle so that we don't only talk about this experience just at this time?
In fact, to buttress what Sheikh had just said, today, the day of Eid is just a commemoration, a remembrance of that continuous days of sacrifice. If we look at the symbolic incidents of this one of Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salatu wasalam, on that day when he was put to test, through a dream to slaughter his son, he agreed to do it. The mother of Asrat, Ishmael, also agreed that he should sacrifice her son. The son also agreed to it that go ahead and do what God asked you to do. What does that suggest? It suggests, past trust between the three of them. It also suggests good governance, transparency, and honesty between the three of them. It's not the day that they start telling themselves, my wife, please agree when God tells me to do this. So just as Sheikh had said, it's for every day of our life. We must build that trust between a man and his wife. There must be absolute trust to the extent that this is the way it should be. With the children, so between men, women, and children, there must be that trust, which is the underlying basis of a good governance. So when we are now celebrating, we are just celebrating at the peak of it, like it was put for us as an example. So if every family now, we have trust in there, look at it the way it's built up. Now, our neighbors, we have the same thing. The clan, we have the same thing. The whole of the local government, we have the same trust and good governance, reliance on each other. Now, it translates to the states. Then it gets to the federal. Then when we have that trust and love, then the country will be excellent. So it's not something that we say it's just today that we are loving ourselves and sharing. No. We must have been doing it since our first day that we grew up, as a Muslim, for example. We must be doing that sacrifice every single day, and people must be able to trust us. And that is why in an environment we want to conduct an election. And I know him, for example, that, okay, here is a man who is not thinking of himself. just as they did of the Holy Prophet Muhammad when he was in Medina. Everybody unanimously agreed that we want a president. This is the man. Because he's not thinking for himself alone. He's thinking for everybody. And in there, you have the Jews, you have the Christians, you have the Muslims, you have the idol worshippers. But he's after the interest of all, which we call good governance. Without that from a leader, then you can have a good followers. And that is what we should focus on. This is a symbolic thing just to remember, to remind us, or for us to remember, that is the way we are supposed to be living every day. You know, if you go to Ramadan that I mentioned, it's a very long period of training us for a whole month. A whole month, as he has said, as you are eating, your neighbors must eat. So if we have it connected like that, there shouldn't be poverty in Nigeria. When they talk about alleviation, I don't understand, you know, what are you alleviating? In the first instance, there is not supposed to be poverty. And unfortunately, even it's now difficult to the extent that when you are even alleviating that poverty, the resources you are using to alleviate the poverty doesn't even get to the people. Is that quite bad? So it's not supposed to be. This is a period of reminding us of love and of trust.
The interesting thing is, Sheikh, when the federal government was going to put out that notice, one of the things that the minister said was that the Muslim Ummah should continue to imbibe the spirit of peace, kindness, and sacrifice as exemplified by the Prophet, and to also use the period to pray for unity, prosperity, and the stability of the country. But let me pick the first part. Imbibing the spirit of peace, kindness, and sacrifice. We are, you are a chartered accountant, you are a chartered economist. I meet many people like that in your profession. We have people like you in your profession in the National Assembly, in the State Houses of Assembly, all over the nation. How significant would you say the statement of the minister is? If all of us had been living the way you and the Imam have been saying, would that statement be necessary?
As in?
When he said we should be imbibing the spirit of peace, kindness, and sacrifice.
Okay. I think it is necessary. Because even, for instance, in Islam, when Allah speaks to us in the Quran, He will say, "Oh, you who believe, do this." Even those who Allah knows are already believers, it still reminds them to believe. So if government is still reminding us all of this, I think it is.
So what's the proof of our belief, Sheikh?
You see, I think this is the proof of our belief, I would say, is that the belief is there, but I think we need to do more as a people. For instance, you will see the same, we talk about corruption in the country, we talk about all sort of vices in the country. The same set of people are the people you will still, on Sunday, they will still go to the church. On Fridays, they will still go to the mosque. So I think it is still, if they are clergymen in the place of worship, I think they should just still, they have more to do. More to do in the sense that these people that we'll still talk about that are involved one way or the other in all these vices, they are people from their faith. So I think it's a challenge to them that they need to do more.
They say you have more to do.
Absolutely. Islam is a religion of peace, for example, but there can't be peace without justice because they are twins. That's what the Holy Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So wherever you find justice, you will find peace. Wherever you find injustice, you will find lawlessness and violence. So what the minister said is fundamental, beyond just reading it on the pages of newspapers. If we pick peace alone and we start dissecting it, it's going to be more than sufficient for this country to be good. You now pick the spirit of kindness. Kindness goes beyond even goodness. For instance, you do something to me, I do it for you, so that's okay. But you go beyond not doing anything for me, I have to do for you. That is what minister is saying. For those who are poor, let's take care of them. Should they even be poor, can we think outside the box? Or even within the box and outside the box, that we take people out of poverty, for example. That's an act of kindness. An act of sacrifice in the sense that you have capability to do evil, but you restrain from doing that evil, then you are doing good. Which, as Ibrahim had taught us, those who do good should be praised. Not because of the good they do, but because of the evil they forgo. And that is the spirit of sacrifice. If you want to sacrifice, for example, in this country, I must thank 3 years of rep members that I am reading on the newspapers that they gave them SUV. They said, me riding 300 million car, how can I do that when people are poor? No. Let's use it to buy tractors and then let's be agriculture. And so let the whole country be very good. This is an act of sacrifice on their side. And that's what I think also the president of Burkina Faso also did. He was using his car before he came to government. And so there is no excuse for us to say we are sharing huge millions when people are suffering. Is that sacrifice? No. That is not what Islam teaches us. And as a Muslim, it doesn't really matter the level. We should forget about, discriminations of the Toriko here. Once you are a Muslim, you must be a model after the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the fundamental thing Allah told him is, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except to be mercy unto mankind. Is it an act of mercy that somebody is riding a car of 300 million and we are still debating whether somebody should take 62,000 naira or not? I'm not even going into that. That's also a wrong direction. Everybody is going in a wrong direction. Escalation by the government, escalation by the labor, it won't pay us. We should all focus back on productivity, where people at the lowest level will be able to afford even the RAM that you ask a sheikh. How much will RAM cost in Nigeria? A RAM should not be more than 250 naira. I mean 250. 250 naira max today.
I hope you know that an accountant is sitting in front of you.
Absolutely.
And an economist. And I know, a chartered accountant and a chartered economist.
I know. Fantastic.
And if he knows the economy now, he will tell you that. I don't think you know.
And I have, a benchmark. I know him to be a veteran, excellent, in that field very well. But if you go and Google it now and you check how much is RAM costing in the UK, it's 250 pounds. Don't forget that in Nigeria, our naira was stronger than even pound. So let's take it at 1 naira, 1 pound. So I know what I'm saying. If we had been producing, we are not lazy. Since it happened in 1973, when Udo Jimone was, pushed out, which we want to do again now. The productivity started dropping because everybody now is in comfort zone. So that's not the right direction. We are all going in the wrong direction. The right direction is to boost the productivity to the extent that if I have 500 naira in my pocket, I can say, okay, buy 1 RAM for this Ilea. We can't be talking about 250,000. Somebody is earning 62,000 for the whole year. How much is his income? How can he buy a RAM? And so these are the key issues. I mean, apologies that I'm not an economist.
No. It's actually
I'm not an economist.
It's actually quite relevant because one of the questions that I was going to follow up is the topic, what we are talking about today. We're talking about the festival of sacrifice.
That's right.
Now, when we talk about sacrifice, of course, the mind of many is going only to the ram. But I think, just as both of you have said, the ram is symbolic.
That's right.
Exactly.
Is to establish the fact that we need to live lives of sacrifices.
That's right.
But some of the people who want to give themselves, they're wondering, I don't even have enough. What should be the mindset?
I think the mindset should be that you don't really have to have enough to give out. The one who even have more might not have the mindset to give out. But beyond all this, I think I will want us to even look at it from a different, perspective. It is the period of sacrifice. When we look at Islam, now we're talking about the ram, how expensive they are in the market. Not only the ram, every other things in the market. Now we look at it that what is the role of religion in all this? And that's my own concern. Now there is a tough economic situations facing Nigeria now. We all know that. But you see, the whole attention is on the government. Fine, it is a government responsibility. But my own idea is that if the leaders of the Muslim community and also of other faiths do what is actually expected of them, then Nigeria would not be in this situation. And how do I mean? For instance, we have what we call the pillars of Islam. And those, you know what a pillar is in a building. It means if the pillar is off, then the building is off. That's the meaning. So one of the pillars of Islam is zakat. Zakat means that it is a concept of taking from the rich and give it to the poor. What happens to our zakat? The population of this country, of Muslims in this country, is over 50% or thereabout. If every Muslim discharge that singular responsibility, offer their zakat, pull it together, administer it the way Islam asks us to administer it, then I think we will not even be talking about poverty alleviation. So we'll be talking about eradication.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked the other time. I assume that manifesting the 5 pillars is proof of faith, right?
Exactly.
So does that then mean that anybody who does not exemplify these 5 pillars is not a believer, or is not believing enough, or doesn't have enough faith, or is not manifesting enough faith?
It's as simple as that. It's not a believer. And I've just painted a scenario to you. We're talking about some of the pillars of a structure. If a pillar is off, what happens to the structure? So that same thing happens to your belief. If one of your pillars is off, then it means your belief is not standing right.
Do you agree with him, Amira?
Absolutely. I think belief must be put into action. And you remember, I think this is like a third or fourth time I'm here. The first one I focused on was the first pillar, which is godliness. And I did mention, I remember that somebody cannot do evil without being ungodly. And people who want to also make sacrifice, they will make it in the hope that God is going to reward them for the sacrifices they are doing. And that's the first pillar we are taking. The second, pillar of always remembering, praying to God, and then doing good is also the basis of that. And then the zakat, which is redistribution of wealth. Mm-hmm. Nobody should be worried in a society as to what am I going to eat. No. Because we are all connected. We didn't drop from the sky. And also we have neighbors. Just as we have said, the Holy Prophet Muhammad said, you can't be a true believer if your neighbor is going hungry. So with that, these are the pillars of humanity that we must pay significant attention to. So each day is just a remembrance of the day of this act of goodness. Fasting, for instance, is one of the pillars. Fasting during the month of Ramadan. So which also goes to the pillar of humanity. Traveling to see what happens, where all humanity comes together. It's also for you to know that this is a humanity concept. So those are the things that we need to put in our mind. So it's not about, reading them theoretically, but putting them into practice is what we are talking about.
So how do we cascade this into our daily lives? And I mean, taking it into the workplace, taking it into the National Assembly, taking it, because you, okay, well, I think it was you that was citing the example of legislators getting such costly vehicles when some of their constituents may not even be anywhere close. So there is a delicate balance. I'll come back to you on that delicate balance. So how do we cascade this lesson on a daily basis, on a norm in our lives? Because a good number of them probably watching you right now, and some of them, of course, they are on recess now until after this period. So what are the things that you would suggest that everyone should take back to work when they resume next week, Wednesday?
I think simply what the Eid centers on, and that is the spirit of obedience to Allah. If we all do what Allah instructs us to do, we will not be in this mess today. The same, we talk about huge sum of money being embezzled by the public office holders every day. The same, most of them will still go to the mosque, will still go to the church and worship. It means they are not taking the lesson from their places of worship into their private life. So it's a simple thing, because we're talking about the fear of Allah. Even when you are in the corridors of your office and you want to embezzle money, you want to commit fraud, that fear of Allah should set in you, and you would not know, I would not do this. And you will look at the millions of Nigeria who is going to suffer because of that, your singular act. Because the problem we are having is just like pulling up drops and drops of water that is becoming an ocean. Problems from me, irregularity from me, corruption from you, this from him. Being pulled together is what is weighing down us as a country, as a nation. If everybody does the right thing that has been taught in our places of worship, and I think Nigeria would be a better country for everyone.
Hey, Mayor, I want to ask you a sensitive question. So there is a responsibility to give to the poor.
That's right.
How about the fear of entitlement mentality?
We don't give him in a lazy way that he will become lazy. No. What I want us to do is what the president of Burkina Faso had done. And I think I mentioned it here. Nobody needs to be poor. You don't just keep dashing money to people. No. It creates some sense of entitlement and laziness. There is no laziness in Islam. No. You must be hardworking. Hardworking from day one to the end. You sacrifice so that all others will be okay. Now, if we are okay in this country, we still look at other countries who are less privileged in terms of intellectual capabilities, and then we can send resources to them. And resources, I mean, for instance, you ask in terms of balancing what our senators and House of Reps will do when they come back. I will be expecting them to focus on productivity when they come back. All the monies for SUVs and all this should be directed into buying tractors. Let's extract those who think they can never have a job, and of different categories, they will have jobs. They can be trained in some few months. Already some of them knows how to use tractors. So let's create a law that is not going to be an extortionist law. Because the fact that you are entitled to certain amount doesn't mean you are not going to be accountable to God. Because you can write a law that I'm entitled to 30 million, for example. So, in the whole of this economy, how did you come to the conclusion that this is what you are entitled to? Instead of you even not earning anything from there. Because you already have your office, you already have your income. So you must be able to come up with something that is going to be productive to the people. And that is the sense of sacrifice. Sacrifice is not only money. In fact, it starts from your intellectual capability and contribution. That's where it starts from. It is people who are very low, with utmost respect, in terms of intellectual capability, that are looking at amassing wealth to themselves. What are they going to use it for? They will die and the money will be in some banks.
The question I'm actually asking you, Amir, is those who have this mindset of, okay, well, he's going to give me anyway. If Sheikh Zuglu is going to give me, let me just sit down and wait for him. It's just that mentality. And you know, there is that propensity for people to have that mindset of, okay, let me just wait. Maybe they say they should not allow me to be poor. I know that I'm poor. It's their responsibility to make sure I'm not poor, according to Islam. And all of that. That's the balance that I'm talking about.
And exactly what I'm saying is that such kind of person shouldn't have gotten to that level of thought if we had actually put him on track that he has to work. For instance, we have the Directorate of Employment, right, where people should work. And this should be their own work to make sure that everybody is meaningfully engaged at different levels. You have operators, you have supervisors, you have foremen, you have managers, you have... So this is the way we should create opportunities and get somebody to work. So if somebody now calls and say, oh, Alaji, can I have, your assistant? Oh, that's okay. Temporarily you can, if he has an immediate, challenge, school fees of children and all those kind of things. But beyond that, you ask him, sorry, what are you doing right now? And he say, oh, okay. Actually, I'm into, fruit processing. So what happened to your food processing factory? Oh, yeah, my machine actually, broke down and, I cannot process it. That's why I have to trouble you. I'm sorry, but okay. So how much is the cost of that thing? Let's look into it. And how do you continuously get fruit into what you are processing there? So that's exactly what I mean. Okay. So it shouldn't be a sense of somebody sitting down and then you just keep dishing out a cash to him. Okay. No, of course, we're going to create a laziness. So Islam does not allow.
Sheikh, okay, you want to add to it?
Yeah. Yes, I can go.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, as we wind down on this conversation, engagement of young people. I'm always talking about young people because that's the future. And if we do not pass this information to them now, we are losing the future that we don't already have. So what are your thoughts on how we communicate with the young generation some of these ideals so that they are not just looking at the examples of the people who are not doing it the way it should be done, from what you and Amir have been saying, to actually doing it the way it ought to be done as they grow older and pass on the same ideals to the future generations?
Unfortunately, that is almost impossible. Unfortunately, because it's just like us saying that, do what I say, don't do what I do. So the only solution and way out is just for our leaders. That's why they are leaders. It's just for them to do the right thing. When the father does the right thing, he doesn't need to waste his time lecturing his son or daughter to do the right thing. He or she already says it, and it takes after those footsteps. So whatever our leaders are doing today, in the National Assembly, in the judiciary, whatever, they are just simply tutoring those younger generation. So there is no magic about it. But like I keep saying, I think this is where we still need our religious leaders to come in. Most especially Islam. Islam has a model that solves all this problem. Even this economic hardship that we're talking about. And I was going to add to what he was saying. Spirit of entitlement is also, that is a way it has been solved. For instance, the administration of zakat in Islam, during the time of Umar ibn Abdulaziz, this was practicalized. They will always call people, they will pull up the zakat money together. It is actually to to eradicate poverty. So they will call them the poor, okay, the zakat is ready, you should come and take your own share. But that is a fundamental thing they're doing. They're not only giving them for sustenance, but they're giving them for empowerment. Today, we could help you, but then what would you do? Such that in a couple of time, you would also not be a zakat collector, but a zakat giver. And it worked perfectly. It got to a point where they would now announce the zakat is ready, and there was nobody available in the country to take zakat. They were all now having empowered to the point that they are not eligible to collect zakat, but rather to give zakat. We can always borrow this model. Let the government be sincere about empowering our youth, and like I said, most importantly, doing the right thing. When the younger ones see us doing the right thing, they will automatically follow that footstep.
Well, I'm glad at least there's one thing clear. There's no such thing as zakat in the constitution. So it goes back to the...
It complements what the government is doing.
It goes back to the religious leaders that you talked about. That's just on a lighter note. Speak to the young people, Amir. How do we get them to understand, own, and practicalize this? He says it's almost too late. Do you agree with him?
If we continue the way we are doing things, I will agree with him. But my position always is that we must change. We, this older generation, must change and be able to show good examples to our children. For instance, in the example of Asrat Ibrahim, he demonstrated godliness. The wife demonstrated godliness, and then the child also demonstrated godliness. So, and that goes to what he had said. It's going to be impossible if the fathers, all those who are in government by virtue of their position today, they are leaders and fathers and mothers. We must be able to come up with the example that our children can live up to. But if we refuse to change, what he said is going to come to play, because it is a law of Allah. In Allah you get yiru becoming ata you get yiru mabi anfusihim. God will not change a people until they have decided to change themselves. That is why I said, when our National Assembly people resume, they should start from somewhere that we must change. The first thing is value change. We must have value change before physical change. This is a situation where we reward non-performance.
It sounds like you're going on. You're going into another topic altogether. I think we'll keep that to another time, because national orientation is a sore topic that we've been talking about for a very long time.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming this morning, Barrister Alatoye Folorunso Azeez, Amir Ahmadiyya, Muslim Jamaat of Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
We've also had Sheikh Faisal Zuglu, who's an Islamic scholar, an educationist, a chartered accountant, and a chartered economist. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much.
Now you know. So join the festival of sacrifice. And I'm going to borrow Sheikh Zuglu's words. Don't be just a zakat collector. Join the zakat givers. Let that be your takeaway for this festival of sacrifice. We're right back after now.